Hi everyone. We at the house will not be celebrating Thanksgiving this year or any year, and we'd like to share with you why that is. Thanksgiving is a national holiday that is celebrated on various dates in October and November in the United States, Canada, St. Lucia, and unofficially in countries like Brazil, Germany, and the Philippines. We've long been told that this holiday originated to mark the peaceful coming together and the eating of a feast between the white European settlers in North America and the tribes of the indigenous peoples. This holiday has also been used as a thanksgiving for that year's harvest. Some Christians use it to mark what they believe was the history of religious freedom in a new world, and secular celebrators typically use the day to simply enjoy good food and perhaps express what they're thankful for. But the stories which have been told about what happened on that so-called first Thanksgiving Day feast, the story which has made it into our culture, which is taught in our schools, found in textbooks and sung about, is quite simply a lie. There wasn't a peaceful feast between the Wampanoag tribe and the European pilgrims. The so-called pilgrims were invaders, murderers, thieves, and colonizers, despite being shown great kindness by the natives they met. But I'll let these native girls tell you more about that truth.
Happy Thanksgiving, America. I'm Donna, and I'm here with my friends to tell you the real history behind this holiday. Growing up, I knew that what they told you in school about Thanksgiving wasn't true. That's not the true story. The true story behind Thanksgiving was, after every killing of a whole village, these European settlers celebrated it, and they called it Thanksgiving. But it wasn't until Abraham Lincoln became president that it became an official holiday.
He ordered 38 Dakota men to be hung for war crimes after the sacred holiday Christmas.
We take this time to remember our elders who lost their lives due to what really happened. Usually my mom makes a Native American dish for us and we pray.
Growing up, I would be kind of annoyed that they didn't know what actually happened on Thanksgiving and that they're actually celebrating the deaths of many people and many tribes that were lost.
I'd like you to try and imagine something. Imagine if the German Nazis won World War II after slaughtering all those Jewish people. And then in the coming years and to the following generations, they retold history as though the Nazis were brave, intrepid explorers instead of murderers. And then they make one day each year a time when the nation celebrates their meeting of the Jewish people. They paint the whole holiday like it's an innocent family dinner with kids in turkey outfits based on gratitude and wholesome nuclear family values. Well, that's what Thanksgiving is. It's a lie. A retelling of a history that didn't happen to cover up a history that did.
The people don't understand that there was a Holocaust in America. When you displace a people, when you try to assimilate them, and you systematically genocide them for hundreds of years, that's a Holocaust. With the government, they relocated them, and then they tried to assimilate them, and then when they realized, oh, well, actually, we don't want these dirty Indians to be assimilated with us, so we're just gonna deprive them of food and water and take away their way of life, and hopefully they just die out. And it's still happening today.
No one really wants to talk about it because it's a very touchy subject, but it's my duty as an indigenous person to learn and speak about these things.
We must put a stop to the lying. We must stop imagining it's otherwise. The empire of the United States was built on two things: slavery and genocide. The biggest genocide in human history didn't occur in Nazi Germany, but on American soil. 100 million Native Americans have been slaughtered and robbed of their homeland. Conservative figures show, and we must stress that these are from studies done by European and white historians, so the numbers are likely far higher, but the figures show that the indigenous population dropped from 60 million to 6 million in just over 100 years. And that's just in those 100. More have been murdered since. The colonization of the Americas at the end of the 15th century killed so many people it disturbed Earth's climate, causing a global cooling event that is sometimes referred to as the Little Ice Age. And because the cleared land left behind by all those murdered natives, was left without anyone to farm them, forests regrew. The land use changes reduced carbon dioxide, CO2 levels in the atmosphere by 7 to 10 parts per million. As published by the University College of London, the systematic genocide of the Native Americans by European colonizers was so dramatic, it caused a climate change. But in addition to correcting the lied about history of the Pilgrims in the New World, we must state loud and clear that the oppression and slaughter of natives is not some distant history, but is still very much present and happening today. As the Germans kept Jews in ghettos, Native Americans are restricted to live on tiny areas called reservations, and their water and land is constantly poisoned and used as a dumping ground for nuclear and toxic waste.
Reservation.
Damnation.
Bleak.
Oppression.
Small.
Small.
Sick.
Just a compromise that Native Americans were put kind of out of the way, out of sight.
Prison. It's like where we're trapped.
I think it's the most common misconception about reservations.
That there's some kind of abundance. That natives are happy.
Ooh. Sad.
Poor.
A concentration camp. Reservations were made to isolate Indian people in hope that we would die off.
Depressing.
Unfair, because they're not as good as other lands. They're the land that the government and people don't want.
Trapped? It wasn't great farmland, it wasn't great homeland, and so it kind of feels like a place off to the side.
Even to this day, the natives are fighting for rights to keep the little what they have.
There are no good reservations. Here's your reservation. You can't go across that boundary. This is your reservation. And I grew up on a Navajo reservation, and we're one of the few lucky people that got to remain where our homelands are. But there are other reservations where people were forced there, and they can't fend for themselves like they used to do in the old days. You can't hunt anymore, you can't fish anymore, because you're just stuck on a reservation on these substandard housing, living in third world country conditions. Youths killing themselves because there's no future, there's no hope. That's a reservation to me.
Native Americans are being poisoned and murdered at a disturbing rate and constantly treated as second-class citizens. Their human rights are ignored, their history whitewashed and lied about, and every year they have to watch as the whole nation of their oppressors celebrate this day. Do you know what Native Americans call Thanksgiving? They call it the National Day of Mourning. Since 1970, Native Americans have gathered at noon on Coles Hill in Plymouth to commemorate a National Day of Mourning on the U.S. Thanksgiving holiday. Plymouth, otherwise referred to as Plymouth Rock, was where the Mayflower and other ships carrying European invaders landed on the shores to build a colony in December of 1620.
It's just like Malcolm X said. We didn't land on Plymouth Rock. Plymouth Rock landed on us. Plymouth, to me, is nothing more than a continuing the mythology. My name is Munanam James. I'm a member of the Aquinnah-Wampanoag tribe of Gay Head, co-leader of United American Indians of New England, and an organizer of the National Day of Mourning. The truth is that the first Thanksgiving was not in 1621. The first Thanksgiving was in 1637 because Governor Winthrop decided that he would give thanks for the safe return of the people who went to Mystic, Connecticut and participated into the massacre of the Pequot. That was the real first Thanksgiving. The Pilgrims and the Indians sat down to a beautiful dinner and lived happily ever after. The end. And this year marks our 48th year of being on this hill. Really, and that's what this all means, the oppression, and the oppression has not ceased. It hasn't ceased. We continue to experience it every time I read that. And I do have to stop because that's hard. It's hard to read it. That's what Day of Mourning means. We stand here in our circle, we have our prayer, we have whatever, and then we speak. Our rates of suicide, our rates of alcoholism, poverty, nothing's really changed. It's just so ridiculous. We're all human beings. I think the problem is they think that we've disappeared. We have not vanished. We are still here.
Many Native Americans do not celebrate the arrival of the Pilgrims and other European colonizers. To them, Thanksgiving Day is a reminder of the genocide of millions of their people, the theft of their lands, and the relentless present assault on their culture. Participants in the National Day of Mourning honor Native ancestors and the struggles of Native peoples to survive today. It is a day of remembrance and spiritual connection, as well as a protest against the racism and the oppression which Native Americans continue to experience.
Whose land? Our land. Whose land? Our land. What do we want? Justice. When do we want it? Now.
Thanksgiving for us is a day of mourning because it represents the day when the Pilgrims first settled here in New England. And they started their reign of tyranny and genocidal acts amongst the indigenous tribes. We tried to feed them and take care of them because the Pilgrims wouldn't have made it through the winter without us. And they paid us back by savagely abusing us and murdering us and enslaving us, stealing our crops.
Since the invasion of Columbus and the rest of the Europeans, Native people have been virtually non-stop victims of terrorism.
We shouldn't be teaching children 1492 Columbus sailed the ocean blue. Columbus was a murderer and a rapist.
I don't think we can imagine what it must feel like to be part of a people who are actively being wiped out, while they watch the neighbors' kids run around in Indian costumes for Halloween and Thanksgiving. How it feels to live under the occupation of your land and the appropriation of your culture.
Thanksgiving.
Lies.
Sadness. Total sadness. Thanksgiving is the time when my family gets together and tells stories about our creation myths and who we were and who we are and really what we lost.
Inaccurate. Colonization.
Oh, that's a horror. Horror beyond measure. Terrible, brutal, atrocity, massacre.
There was a massacre. Puritans came and slaughtered them. They didn't want to eat with the savage. They slaughtered millions of us. I don't know why they call themselves Puritans.
Romanticized.
And try not to think about what it really represents.
Now, there's nothing new about this blatant and triumphant flaunting of white conquering and oppression. White colonizers all over the world do this. In Spain, they celebrate Spain Day on the 12th of October, which really commemorates the genocide carried out against the natives in South America by the colonizing Spaniards. In Australia, they celebrate Australia Day on January 26th. Despite the white colonizers being on stolen land and continuing to inflict racist, thieving, and murderous oppression on the Aboriginal peoples, many Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples call this day Invasion Day or Survival Day, taking part in protest marches all over the mainland and the islands. And we're seeing this play out live in Palestine as we watch the ethnic cleansing and genocide taking place against the Palestinian people. The oppressor and conqueror has always held such jubilant celebration following their own violence and sought to recast themselves as noble explorers, suffering persecuted victims, gallant warriors, and innocent travelers. The wiping out of the true narrative is the denying of the reality of the true victims.
Thanksgiving, as most Americans and our kids, unfortunately, are spoon-fed in school, is actually an invention completely of President Abraham Lincoln post-Civil War, when they were sort of like looking at propaganda and different strategies to think about how they were bringing the American public back together. It's really a product of just American propaganda over time that most people have internalized, that that's really the first story, but it really wipes away just the brutality, the genocide, the violence that the Pilgrims and colonization brought along with it.
So you know what's the least that we can do on this Thanksgiving Day, this year and every year? Not celebrate it. We have 364 other days in the year to have family dinners, to express our gratitude for things. And if you're so in need of turkey, go to a gas station and buy a sandwich. Now, if you find all of this uncomfortable, too harsh, you don't want to give up your precious holiday, or you say, well, I don't make it about the pilgrims or anything like that, I just make it about spending quality time with family and friends, then please stop pretending that you care about human rights.
It's complicated because I also want to spend time with my family, and we do have the tradition of celebrating Thanksgiving.
I don't think it's a racist holiday. I think it's possibly the most inclusive holiday that we have in the United States. I think it's a wonderful holiday. Has done me good, will do me good. God bless it. Happy Thanksgiving to you. Before we go to you changing my mind, what are you most thankful for?
Welcome to our banquet. Cheese, Mr. Sowit. Thank you.
Happy Thanksgiving. That's what we're calling it.
Cool.
I bet there'll never be problems between the Englishmen and the Native Americans ever again.
They had turkey, fruits and vegetables, deer, and pumpkin pie.
Just asking people if they think Thanksgiving is racist.
Not at all.
No.
No.
I don't personally think that Thanksgiving is racist at all.
I don't know. I guess I want to celebrate it because I get to see my family after 3 months.
So why do you say no?
Because it's about friends and family, and regardless of the history that's behind it, no one goes into Thanksgiving dinner with their family thinking, oh, I'm going to try and establish white supremacy. No, it's all about eating turkey and having a good time.
I never really thought about it that way, because I just think about it as a day of getting together with my family.
I think it's a nice time to gather with family and friends and just get together and enjoy each other's company.
The idea behind it is it's supposed to be for people to be together, not about being racist. I mean, that's just fetching for ideas for something that's not really there.
I think it's a holiday to get together with family and friends. I think that's the whole idea. Maybe the original meaning of Thanksgiving is maybe can be construed as racist, but I think the modern interpretation of Thanksgiving is a day of getting together with family over good food and conversation.
Thanksgiving is just a day where we all just come together and have fun.
Do you think we should still celebrate it?
For sure, yeah. Yes.
I think so.
I'm gonna enjoy it all the way.
Yeah, I mean, if it's about bringing people together, not dividing them, why make a big deal of it?
You're part of the problem. You are adding your approval stamp to imperial rule and genocide. America wasn't discovered, it was stolen. Find another day to eat turkey on. And so, this is why we at the house do not celebrate Thanksgiving. Instead, we commend the National Day of Mourning, which aims to dispel myths surrounding the Thanksgiving story, and instead raises awareness about the historical and ongoing struggles facing Native American tribes, and how we might support their struggle. We do not condone misinformation about history or hiding behind an innocent celebration about being thankful. Thanksgiving is a harmful and damaging holiday, and Natives are owed respect and truth. Please take time this year to research the purpose of the National Day of Mourning and go to Native sources, listen to Native voices when seeking that information. Because between the voice of the oppressed and the voice of the oppressor, the oppressed is always the more reliable narrator of the two. You can find a few sources to the information we've shared today in the description box below, and there you'll also find the link to a few ways that you can support Natives today. Liberation for all oppressed people, land back, and long live the resistance.
Scale of violence that is occurring against children.
Happy Thanksgiving, America.